And you know why you have anxiety year over year or day over day or week after week? It's because you look at your calendar and you look at your calendar, you know how to fill it out, but you go, well, I'm not going to actually do it. All right. So this morning, I woke up and I was getting ready, and it was like dark, and you know, my routine in the morning is I get up and I immediately get my gym clothes on before I even go down to get my coffee. And as I'm getting dressed, I'm like, oh, is it raining? And it wasn't even like a little bit raining. I was like, it's pouring out here, and I'm like, huh. And we go downstairs. It's dark, and I was uh my daughter goes to school early for pep band, and we have like a 17-18 minute drive, and we always listen to a little something. And today was a little David Goggins, and it was showing clips between the conversation between him and Chris Williamson on the Modern Wisdom podcast. And if you're not listening to Chris Williamson and the Modern Wisdom podcast, the episodes that he has with Goggins, the episode that he has with Alex Hermosi, the episode that he has with Chris Bumstead, like these are like the elites and the elites of people who execute at a high level. And David was having a conversation with Chris, and Chris was talking about how, like, when you wake up and it's dark and it's cold and it's raining and you don't want to do stuff. And my daughter looks over, she goes, "Hey, it's just like today." And I said, "Yup." And she goes, "Ooh." And then David says, "I love it. Keep going. I love it." And this goes back to the conversation we had before, right? Like, it's cold, it's dark, it's raining. Nobody else wants to get up. Nobody else wants to go outside. But guess what we do every day? We get up and we go. And it just reminded me of the conversation that, like, okay, so like still 95.789% of the time, I don't want to do the things that I do. And yet I've created these routines and these habits now that have protected me from my emotions, right? Because if we live by feeling, that we don't get anything done because feelings are a liar. And the conversation that keeps coming back to my head is you don't have a consistency issue. For those of you that are experiencing challenges in your business, for those of you that are experiencing challenges in uh, your finances, in your relationships, anywhere that you're experiencing a gap between where you are and where you'd like to be. A lot of people are like, well, I just need to be more consistent. I need to be more consistent. And I'm going to say you're a freaking liar. You are consistent. You are consistently inconsistent. You are consistently inconsistent. But the thing is you don't have a consistency issue, because I guarantee you, every time you go get Mexican, it's chips and salsa every time.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that when you've had a hard day, it's 2 scoops of vanilla, maybe a little chocolate consistently every time. Or maybe we'll go healthy this time, just a thing of popcorn, maybe. Right? The thing is that if you take a look in your life, you've got plenty of examples of consistency. The issue isn't consistency. What's the word we're looking for? You don't lack consistency. You lack
Discipline.
discipline. Thank you, Ramil Zen. Discipline. And what is discipline?
Doing things when you don't want to.
It's doing it's doing the things for what you want most versus what you want now. It's doing the activities towards the things you want most versus what you want now. Why do people have so much challenge with this? I'm gonna get a little.
Because it doesn't always because it
Go ahead,
doesn't
Becky.
always because it doesn't always feel good. It's hard, you
It
know.
never feels good. I'm gonna share some passion with you all today because I love you, and I'm speaking more to myself than anyone else. Okay. When we talk about discipline is doing what you want, or doing things towards what you want most versus what you want now, the biggest challenge is none of you actually know what you want. and you're walking around like a NPC character. Every single day's the damn same because you're so surfacey with your reasons and no one's actually doing the work to understand what's truly driving you, what's your why. And you keep saying your kids and your family and you keep not showing up. And I'm going to ask you this question. If you were starting a workout routine and your workout partner only showed up 4 days out of 5 all the time, how long would you continue to wait for them? And what would be your opinion of them, whether or not they're trustworthy? If your workout partner showed up 4 out of 5 days or showed up 1 day out of 5 every week, for how long are you going to continue to have them as your partner? And then how much do you trust them? What's your opinion of them as far as trustworthiness? Is it high or low? Someone give me an answer, please.
Well,
It's low. This is what you're doing to your subconscious. Every single day that you're setting yourself a commitment to do something, and every single day that you don't show up, the version of you that's dying to come out is saying, you're full of shit. I don't trust you. And so at night, you come home and you tell the people around you, you did what you could. You were busy, but then you lay down and go, well, maybe this 2 scoops will make me feel better. Or maybe this beverage will make me forget that I'm not of my word, that I'm not in integrity, that I'm not trustworthy. And you know why you have anxiety year over year or day over day or week after week? It's because you look at your calendar and you look at your calendar, you know how to fill it out, but you go, well, I'm not going to actually do it. Like, or I'm going to do it until I get busy or I can come up with a really good reason not to. Or I'm going to let a phone call come in and a buyer that's not really qualified take me off of my game because I'm actually afraid to ask them the questions because they may actually turn out to not be a buyer and not be qualified. But I'd rather run around with a maybe instead of asking the right questions to make sure they're not. And then at the end of the week, you're like, man, I mean, I had so many appointments, but none of them converted. I got so many buyers, but no one's writing. We don't have a consistency issue. Many of us are consistently inconsistent. And it's because you're not really clear on what you want. You keep saying, this is what I want. And this is one of the biggest challenges I have sometimes is for those of you that are just high producers, you're like, man, I just like, just give me the steak, not the sizzle. I don't want to spend all this time talking about all this airy fairy mumbo jumbo. And the challenge is your lack of your clarity around the airy fairy mumbo jumbo continues to put you in a spiral of feast and famine. Feast and famine, because all you want to do is talk about the steak, and you got to realize that your wealth, your opportunity, and your legacy lives in the sizzle. Your future, your best life lies in the work that you're not willing to do, lies in the stuff that you're ignoring. You say what's important to you, but you still don't do what you said you're going to do, which means you're not actually being truthful. And I'm sharing with you the argument that I had to have with myself every single morning in the car. This is Matt talking to Matt. You got to ask yourself, okay, if what I've been saying is important to me is actually not enough to fuel me to move forward, what is it really? What is it really? How do I even begin to go onto that path in that journey? How do I get real enough with myself? Because listen, man, if you're not willing to get real with you, who are you gonna be real with? If you can't even be like 100 with yourself. Consistency, discipline, and discipline equals freedom. And that freedom comes from knowing truly what you want, what's important to you. I would say one of the biggest things is as when you really tap into your opportunity for other, but have it also be connected to self. That's where it really changes. See, because for whatever reason, we're actually conditioned. I don't know if we're like wired. I don't know if it's behavioral or not, but like, maybe we can get an evolutionary psychologist on the call. Is we're willing to do more for others than we are for ourselves. Think about how hard you work for a really stupid paycheck. And then now you have the opportunity to 10x that on your own terms. And when's the last time anyone put in like a legit 40 hours? I know you've been running around for 40 hours, but like work. Guilty. Guilty. Some of you are like, this is the last damn Mindset Monday I'm coming to, man. This guy's too. Matt, you need a warning. You need a label before some of these calls, bruh. Share with me what's percolating with you guys right now with this conversation. Again, uh got a little fired up today because it's one of those rainy days, those cold days.
I'll be honest and transparent for a minute.
Yeah, bro.
So I'm fixing to get hammered for this one, but that's okay. What if one of the true reasons that keeps you from pushing forward, like what you're talking about, like what we know we should be, is a fear of failing? How do you push through that?
Oh man. I mean, there so that in itself is its own masterclass, right? I mean, there's the fear of failure. Some of you have the fear of success, right? Where we call it the fear of failure, but then we have the fear of success. Like, well, if I actually do this and I get busy enough, then I don't even know if I have the systems, the support, or the knowledge to take this all the way to the finish line. So I'm not going to do it, right?
Sure.
And some of us have the desire to look good and be right. Like, so we're embarrassed that we put ourselves out there, we get caught in a thing where people were like, "Oh, you're actually not as smart as you say you are on Facebook, or you're actually not as smart as you put yourself out to be on TikTok." Ha ha ha! Gotcha, right? So we don't do anything, right? But really, what is the fear of failure? How do you actually fail? Like, if you think about it, like, what are you really fearing on the failure side? If you understand, if we just know that what it like really like what is failure? If we look at like Major League Baseball, the best of the best are only 30% successful. But if we judge them based on the fact that, like, okay, so every 10 times you go up to bat, you get struck out 7 times, loser, as opposed to Hall of Fame, best ever. What if every time they got up to bat and they struck out, they're like, I should probably do something else. I don't know. This isn't for me. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's the paths in the math. There's a lot of conversations around it. One of the and Brian, we could go offline on this and go a little deeper. I think a lot of people have different ways of tackling or attacking that, whatever that is, whatever kind of reluctance, fear, judgment, whatever's showing up, whatever percolates, whatever bubbles to the surface right before you take the action. I have it. I still have it. There's time, like, I've got 2 calls today. I've got 2 calls. I got a call today with the gentleman who does 75 million in real estate as a team of 15 people. And I'm like, I better not mess this up. He knows way more about real estate than I do, but I got to have a call with him, right? Like, I'm about to be interviewed on a podcast for this new book that I have out that I'm actually terrified of anyone actually reading. Like, I got so excited to put this book together. It's sitting right here. I still haven't finished editing it for my guy because I'm actually deep down inside. I'm like, someone may actually read it and go, well, this is shit. This is bullshit. Like, ugh. But guess I'm going to do it anyway because I told everybody that's coming. I told everybody be ready for Black Friday or Cyber Monday for a download. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, here we go. So I'm with you, Brian. I'm with you, right? And you're not going to get hammered for it. I think the most courageous thing that you can do is actually admit it and then do something about it, right? And then take action anyway, despite the fear. And that's the thing is everybody that I've spoken to ever that has achieved anything at any level, we're running around scared shitless constantly, but moving so quickly sometimes that we don't have time to think about it.
Well, my fear, like what you're talking about, my fear of failure leads right back into what the whole thing you were just talking about creates, just avoidance. So if I don't do it, then I won't fail.
Except non-action is an action.
True.
Yeah.
I saw a meme the other day that said something along the lines of we like fear is like we're afraid of losing something, right? Usually that's the basis of our fears. We're afraid of losing something. So that could be someone's respect, that could be some, whatever it is, right? But if you don't take that action, you're losing something anyway. You're worried about losing something that you never had to begin with. So that kind of was an aha moment to me. Like we're all sitting here worried about taking that action because we might lose something, but we never had it to begin with. So we're not really losing it. Um, but I think Brian, it's so normal. It's human nature to want to stay in the safe zone, to run away from pain or fear. And so that's it's human nature. The hardest part is retraining your brain to actually run towards fear instead of away from fear. And sometimes it can just be the little step. So if you're running away from doing the things because you're going to get sick, you're whatever, afraid of failure, maybe it's just celebrating and doing the little steps that are fearful and training your brain to get into that, like habit of diving into the fear. So if you're afraid of making phone calls, just get in and make that first phone call. And then your brain gets in that rhythm of like, that wasn't so bad. I didn't die. We're okay. And you can keep going and adding and just stacking. Matt talks all the time about habit stacking. And that's truly what it is. Like start building one habit, like with one habit that gets you closer to your goal, and then stack them another and another at a time. Eventually you'll get comfortable with getting uncomfortable.
And I have to say from experience, I've been in the business a long time, so I get in the habits and then I get out of them. And the longer I'm out of the habits, the harder it is to get back into them. So keep with it.
I number one thing that I did early on that helped was I surrounded myself with other people that were doing it like in real time, like not just like as an accountability like call. I remember when I knew that I didn't have a database, I wasn't from the area. I knew I had to prospect. I had a list, but I didn't know like I wasn't really good yet. I was just freaking out, and so I just went around the office. We had like 52 offices in this building, and I could only find 3 people that wanted to sit with me every day from 9 to 11 and make calls. I found 3 people, but the 3 of us would sit in the training room, and we just were like everyone's looking around like deers in headlights, and my heartbeat was at like a 115, just sitting there staring at my phone with my script open and whatever. And we just all started making calls. And we were listening to each other just kind of fail forward and get hung up on or all these other things. And I'm like get off with 152 heartbeat right after, but you survived and you look around and they're like, and then they're like, hey, that sounded really good. And you're like, really? Because I feel like, and we just did that. We just did that for several weeks. And it was the number one way for me at that time was be around other people where I couldn't hide, where it pushed, right? When Ramil and I were on our call the last time and he had not done his homework and I said, cool, well, we're not moving forward till you make the call right now, live on this call. He couldn't run away from it and he did it. And it was turned out perfect, even better than he thought. So right there, we're breaking that framework, that wiring that habitually wants to pause us in growth because of whatever, the unknown, the discomfort, etc. We have to break that. So there's so many different techniques, and I know that we're running up against time. One of the ones, if you haven't read it, Brian, get the 5-second rule with Mel Robbins. Is just you could, there's a TED talk, there's a video, the 5 second rule. Mel Robbins was probably one of the best books on the science of breaking that pause, the hesitation before action, right? It's just a really cool hack, if you will, to change your psychology around it.
I've got that one. I just need to reread it.
Reread it, re-listen to it, revisit it with this frame, with what you just shared in mind, right? Apply now the lesson to your experience in real time and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for staying on. Thanks for hanging in there. Here's the discipline over consistency. Here's to figuring out why. Take care, y'all. We'll see you Wednesday, same time, same channel.